This new evidence may just prove former President Donald Trump's innocence once and for all. So lawyer Michael Avenatti, he made headlines by accusing a key witness in Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial of lying in court. Avenatti, who previously represented adult film star Stormy Daniels, took to social media to challenge the credibility of witness Keith Davidson regarding the alleged payment made to Stormy Daniels in 2016. Avenatti said this on X/Twitter. Keith Davidson is lying. After Avenatti confronted Daniels with her own text messages, Stormy Daniels admitted to Avenatti in early 2019 that she and Davidson had extorted Donald Trump in October 2016. It was basically a shakedown, and apparently this was one of the many reasons Avenatti fired her as a client in February 2019. Well, like former President Trump said when he exited the courtroom, they've been after us for years. Democrats, the radical left, they've destroyed people's lives. Trump says it's a shame what they've done to this country. According to the former president, these are vicious radical left lunatics, and in the meantime, the country's going to hell. Trump also shared his thoughts about the trial with Cindy Adam from the Posts. He said that he is dealing with a trial from a rigged and conflicted judge that was submitted by a corrupt DA. Back on the stand was Michael Cohen, the Beverly Hills attorney who negotiated payments for two women who demanded exorbitant cash from Trump in exchange for their silence about purported affairs. But surprise, surprise, the witness Davidson admitted that he had no contact whatsoever with Trump and never met him. Apparently, he dealt exclusively with Donald Trump's ex-lawyer Michael Cohen, who appeared to be acting entirely on his own. Nothing in his testimony involved crimes allegedly committed by Donald Trump. But Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has his blinders on. Instead of admitting that Michael Cohen, his central witness, has gone rogue and self-destructed, DA Alvin Bragg persists in what commentators call his contemptible pursuit of Trump. But let's see here, guys. My uncle said, liars don't win trials. The truth does. That's how it's supposed to work anyway. To add to that point, there's this nationwide survey by Ledger that showed President Biden will not pick up any additional support if former President Donald Trump is found guilty of a crime and imprisoned before the 2024 election. Instead, Donald Trump would likely lose his 1-point lead over Biden if he is found guilty of any of the 88 criminal charges that he faces. But all of his support would be shifted to undecided rather than the incumbent. In other words, this may not even work out in Biden's favor, unlike what his team may be expecting. Now, like I said, guys, former President Donald Trump, he could be home free all the way to November thanks to all of these recent developments. And of course, we're not going to miss 1 second of it. So just stay right there, guys. We're going to go ahead and dive right in. So for starters, we have to consider how this trial is interfering with former President Donald Trump's campaign, right? I mean, just take a look.
It's the third week of his New York City criminal trial. Before the jury heard any testimony, Trump faced the prospect of additional sanctions for violating the gag order Judge Juan Merchan imposed on him.
They have no case. They have no case. But we have a very conflicted judge, unfortunately.
The judge has already fined Trump $9,000 Tuesday for violating the rule prohibiting him from speaking publicly about witnesses or jurors in the case. Merchan went on to warn Trump the former president could also face jail time if he continues to ignore the order.
Also, we can't talk about this leading prosecutor who came from the Biden administration.
Now, of course, Trump supporters are saying that the President Trump case should be dismissed. I've even heard some people saying that President Trump should sue. What do you guys think? I mean, this trial is just getting more ridiculous by the day, if you ask me. Now, the biggest revelation, I think, was this recent one from former Stormy Daniels lawyer, Michael Avenatti. Basically, he went on Twitter to say how this has all been a hustle by Stormy Daniels and key witness Keith Davidson. Avenatti called it a shakedown to extort Trump back in October 2016. Just for everyone's background, Davidson is the attorney that negotiated the alleged hush money payments that Trump is accused of making to Stormy Daniels and former model Karen McDougal ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass asked Davidson whether there was a sexual encounter between Trump and Daniels, and David replied saying that was his understanding. He even said that there was an understanding that their activities may have in some way assisted the presidential activity of Donald Trump. Avenatti called into Fox News saying the New York criminal case against former president was grossly unfair. He also claimed that the case was politicized, uncalled for, and flat out wrong. A lot of people who heard this first said it's about time. But what a waste of time and taxpayer money this whole trial was. Trump himself, when he left the court in the latest session, he railed against Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and the entire Department of Justice. According to our former president, they've been after us for years. Democrats, the radical left, they've destroyed people's lives. He also said that it's a shame what they've done to this country. He called his detractors vicious radical left lunatics, and added that in the meantime, the country is going to hell. He cited the border crisis, inflation, Afghanistan, and Russia's war in the Ukraine, saying it would have never happened if he was in office. That's why his supporters say they should all be indicted, not Trump. But hey, real quick guys, just before we jump back into the action, I just want to take a moment and thank you guys and remind you to hit the like button if you're enjoying the video. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. That way you won't miss out on future updates on the trial or other critical news that we cover about America. It's through your support that our channel can continue deep diving into these stories and bring you guys the latest developments as they happen. So make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and let's get back to uncovering the truth together, all right? According to former President Donald Trump, his only thought is to beat the communists, the fascists, and the lunatics that we're all having to put up with, hopefully for only a little while longer. He said this to Cindy Adams from the Post. He also mentioned how he's on trial with a totally rigged and conflicted judge submitted by a DA who's corrupt, incompetent, and allowing violent crime all over the city. As our former President Donald Trump described it, New York is going to hell, but yet they still go after Trump. Well, it's definitely hard to deny that District Attorney Alvin Bragg is pretty much unraveling at the seams right in front of our eyes. Instead of concealing what Michael Cohen, his key witness, has gone rogue and self-destructed, District Attorney Alvin Bragg continues his questionable pursuit of Donald Trump. But hey, in the world of law, truth is supposed to triumph in the trials, right? This principle is pretty much the main hurdle for Donald Trump's defense team in this Manhattan trial. Lawyers for the former president are tasked with unveiling what some call legal deceit of District Attorney Alvin Bragg and also addressing the chronic dishonesty of his star witness Michael Cohen. And of course, complicating their job is Judge Juan Merchan, whose bias against former President Donald Trump is conspicuous and disgraceful as described by some. Now back to the stand was Keith Davidson, a Beverly Hills lawyer who negotiated payments for two women who demanded exorbitant amounts of cash from Donald Trump in exchange for their silence about purported affairs. But here's the twist, guys. The witness, Keith Davidson, he admitted that he had no contact whatsoever with former President Trump. He never even met Trump. Instead, he dealt directly with Trump's ex-lawyer Michael Cohen, who appeared to be acting entirely on his own. So yeah, in short, nothing in his testimony involved crimes allegedly committed by Trump. Davidson didn't hold back in his portrayal of Cohen, describing him as profane, offensive, unceasingly angry, and often threatening. He painted Cohen as a liar who grew resentful towards Trump after not being taken to Washington, D.C. when Trump became president. Now, apparently, Michael Cohen had grand illusions of being named White House Chief of Staff or even Attorney General. And when these dreams were dashed asunder against the jagged edges of reality, Michael Cohen lashed out his frustration, his anger, and exploding uncontrollably. One article described it as a nuclear device with seething hatred for his former boss that became a maniacal obsession. So you see, this perspective, it pretty much supports the defense theory that Michael Cohen's testimony is driven by revenge, not truth. I mean, they even said Michael Cohen seemed suicidal. He said to Davidson, "Jesus Christ, can you effing believe I'm not going to Washington after everything I've done for that guy?" That's what he said to Davidson. So yeah, he may not be the best star witness DA Bragg was painting him out to be, but what do y'all think about that? Now, it's pretty difficult to believe that any careful prosecutor would base their case on Michael Cohen, who some have described as an unhinged liar. I mean, let's not forget about, after confessing in 2018 to a string of shameful fabrications under oath, he was dispatched to prison for perjury and fraud. A federal judge recently called him a serial perjurer. Cohen has also been very public in his disdain for Trump, regularly appearing on TV and even commenting on the trial on TikTok. His recent social media rants reap financial profits, which means that now, more than ever, he has an economic motive to lie. You could even say his livelihood depends on it. I mean, Alvin Bragg and the other prosecutors' heads must have exploded when they discovered what he was doing. Needless to say, I think it's pretty clear that bringing Michael Cohen into a courtroom should induce a significant doubt about the credibility of this entire case. Yet, despite Michael Cohen's dramatic fallout, Bragg stubbornly pursues Donald Trump. It seems Bragg is relentless in his efforts. As they said, the DA is like an attack dog who just won't let go. Right now, the trial seems to tarnish Bragg's witnesses more than Trump, painting the former president as a blackmail victim versus a perpetrator. The key witness, Davidson, even reframed the payment to Stormy Daniels not as hush money. He refused to call the Stormy Daniels payment hush money or a payoff instead, while insisting its proper definition is consideration. That's just a fancy legal term in contract law that simply means an exchange for benefits, which he argues was a legitimate legal expense. So you could see how this supposed key testimony blows a gaping hole in all of Bragg's 34 charges against Donald Trump that he falsified private business records. The defense also highlighted Davidson's questionable past in extracting settlements from celebrities. He was once investigated by law enforcement for criminal extortion, although never charged. He admitted that much of his practice involved extracting money. He preferred to kind of label them as settlements from celebrities. He also brokered sex tapes. So yeah, for the Trump defense, it fits a pattern of squeezing prominent people for cash during times of vulnerability. People such as Donald Trump. Basically, this further paints Trump as a victim rather than a culprit. Despite all the evidence, the question remains whether jurors can set aside any political biases in what some may say is a politically charged case involving a presidential candidate that they might dislike. But let's be clear here. Misleading witnesses and misapplied laws by a politically motivated prosecution, they're a real threat to justice. In Manhattan, the odds seem stacked against Trump. Let's see if liars or the truth prevail in this trial. Needless to say though, President Biden will not pick up any additional support if former President Donald Trump is found guilty of a crime and imprisoned before the 2024 election. This, according to a recent nationwide survey from Ledger. So according to this, Trump would lose his 1-point lead over Biden if he is found guilty of any of the 88 criminal charges that he faces. But all of his support would shift to undecided rather than to the incumbent. The survey also shows Biden's approval ratings remains well underwater, with 51% disapproving of his job as president and 38% approving. The remaining 11% were unsure of their response. It's clear that this trial isn't just about what happens in court. You could also pretty much see it has a barometer for public opinion as we head towards the election. The stakes are high and the drama is even higher. So what's your take on all of this? Do you think justice will prevail, or is this just kind of another round of political theater? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I would love to hear from you guys. And hey, if you found today's discussion enlightening, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video. I'd like to thank you guys so much for rocking with me. Thank you for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you guys on the next one.